They've done up the place a bit nice. Hi guys, Mr. Jaeger here, and welcome. Welcome back to Star Citizen, and welcome to the 2954 Invictus launch week! Yes! 4th year in a row. Yes, today is the beginning of Invictus launch week, the 4th time we've done this, 4 years running. Starting all the way back in 2020 in terms of Star Citizen the game, but in terms of the lore, going back all the way to 2541, as it says over here. So, what exactly is this event? Why am I getting all excited? And what is going on? Well, today we are going to be having a little bit of a look around the Invictus launch week for the first day, showcasing all of the wondrous things coming through in the form of these ship manufacturers: RSI, Origin, Argo, Consolidated Outland. And in these particular video series, we will be watching, and I'll be going in, talking about these vessels and having my own particular thoughts on the latest and greatest thing. But this also acts as a bit of a timestamp, so that in the future, I can come back, look at these videos, and sort of go, Jesus Christ, look at how far we've come, or Jesus Christ, when the fuck will they get that ship in the game? But no, this is a pretty awesome event, and I love doing these things. It's the highlight of my years, and it's the thing that I love doing in Star Citizen. It's the only content that my brain goes, oh yeah, I can do that, no problem. So, let's have a quick little look around. So this is the Expo Center on Area 18. It's a wonderful evening. There's no lights, stars, because of course light pollution. And that's actually a thing, actually. One of those things you don't realize. But if you're on a planet that's completely made as a city, you're never going to see the stars. Too much light pollution. So going over to this wonderful mural, which is a little bit laggy. But basically, for those who don't know, the Invictus Launch Week in terms of lore, is a yearly event where students from the Academy of Mars for the United Earth Empire Navy celebrate their graduation, and the new batch of fresh recruits go into the United Earth Empire's Mars training facility, known as Invictus. And the first event for this, if we have a look-see here, there we go. So the first time this event was launched was during 2541, during the First Tavaran War. Basically, it says here, actually back several centuries. So, shortly after the First Tavaran War began in 2541, humanity, at the time, the days when the UEE was known as the United Planet. Oh, fuck it, I'll start from the beginning. This may come as a surprise, but Invictus actually goes back several centuries to the days when the UEE was known as the United Planets of Earth, UPE. Shortly after the First Tavaran War began in 2541, humanity suddenly found itself in need of an organized military force, at the size previously unneeded. To this point, aside from the hostage situation on with the Xi'an in 2530, there had only been local security forces under the control of the central human government. With humanity facing imminent and overwhelming threat, a fleet needed to be raised and trained quickly. The tribunal sent out an immediate call for recruits to create this army. Transport ships on each of the settled planets would load up these volunteers and travel to the training facility on Mars, known as Invictus. Hang on. On the morning of 2542, 10/12, so the 10th of the month, the 12th of, right, so in the year of 10th of October, 2542, bloody Americanism, families and communities gathered at the launch pads around the UPE territories to celebrate those who were going to defend against the alien invaders. As the conflict continued, more recruits would gather on that day to travel to Invictus to begin their training. Over the centuries, the Empire has expanded, space travel has become even more accessible, and most recruits are able to self-report. The need for Invictus Launch Week has diminished, but the spirit of it, however, is stronger than ever. Invictus is a time to celebrate each other, to celebrate bravery, duty, and commitment to the goals of define humanity at its finest. So the Invictus Launch Week is basically a special event invoked by measure in 2581, so about 40-ish years afterwards. and it's basically been a celebrated event every year since. So what does it mean for the Star Citizen player? You know, the average Joe Schmuck who doesn't really understand what's going on or is coming into Star Citizen being quite new. Well, in terms of the Star Citizen players, it means we get to go into the game and explore. It's a free trial period as well, so you get to play Star Citizen for a week whilst it all goes through, just to see what the game is like, to explore and find out what it's really, you know, to explore what the game is like and to see what kind of environment Star Citizen has become. For us players out there, it's also an opportunity to potentially buy some time-limited sale ships, so bigger ships, military combat vessels, all that sort of jazz, as most of the stuff available here is all about the military. New ships, combat vessels, and new weapons of war, as well as the Drake Defense Con, but that's near the end of the event anyway. But for me, I do these events because it also acts as mentioned, a bit of a time gate, or a sort of a snapshot in time, whereupon I get to see all of the things that came before, and all the things we get to look forward to, and we can kind of highlight when something was new, when something was announced, and when something finally came out of the holodeck into the fucking floor. And in this area, we get to see a whole host of displays, really fucking cool options, because... Yeah. So the other thing which is really freaking awesome is it showcases not just the combat side of the ships in of the UEE military, but also the rescue forces, the logistical guys, the pilots, the medical crews, all of the guys who help run the UEE in the background, making them the most important contributors in terms of the humanity's goals and dreams. As you can see, there's a lot of awesome stuff. There's a lot of opportunities to buy some good merchandise here. We've got shirts from Tumbril. We've got shirts from Origin, Invictus Launch Week with a really cool looking jacket. Really kind of want to buy one of those IRL. And there's also some concept art ship works because, for example, this is the original Cutlass Black model. You can tell because it hasn't got the side doors. It's got instead some VTOL thrusters, which... looks kind of cool, and there's also some additional engines in the back here, whereas the modern one doesn't have that. Also, you can see the rear cargo hatch was very thin. The ship was very thin back in the day. But, yeah, there's some cool stuff. And here's one of my favorite bits in terms of murals, which is pretty cool. It doesn't help that he's there. But this is a really awesome moment. This basically shows a tribute to the naval rescue operations on Vega. This occurred... the Vega system was hit pretty hard by the Vandal, resulting in the settlements being completely demolished. And this is a really awesome sort of thing, because you stand here and you're basically a civilian being rescued from the rubble by not just this man, but this man, this man, and this man. And these guys are all here to save you. Exactly, as a team working together. We also see the display of the 999 Squadron, the famous squadron that does aerial displays up in the cinematics. It would be awesome in the future if we could actually get real-life, well, if we could get either players or CIG pilots to actually do air displays inside Area 18 when the servers are stable. Christ, not beforehand. But still, that would be kind of cool if they could do some kind of air show that all the players can see. This is probably something for the far future, so don't push yourself, CIG. Seriously, don't fucking destroy the servers with your aerials displays. But no, this is an awesome event that I look forward to coming. I look forward to the all year because it's one of those things that we really can get to see this game shine in its most awesome formats. So, as you can see, we've got a whole host of different vessels and different things to look at. And you may notice there's no Drake Interplanetary. That's because it's in another part of the event. But regardless, we've got a fair amount of stuff to look into. A lot of the ship manufacturers are kind of bundled together, with only Anvil and Aegis having their own separate days. Kind of makes sense, since a majority of these vessel groups don't really have enough ships to justify a singular day for them. But at the same time, it's awesome for me because it means it streamlines the whole day for me. So let's just hop into the convention hall and have a little look-see. So obviously, not only are we now celebrating the release of a number of vessels in Star Citizen with the Polaris also coming into it, which, by the way, the Polaris is going to be a thing for a separate video, because we are going to be... Nice. We are going to be doing a separate video showcasing the exterior of the vessel, as well as doing a tour of the Idris... internal Idris sort of thing, because I think there is an actual tour now of the Idris. And as I've never been in an Idris, I think it's about time we got into one of those things. We've been in a Javelin, we've been in this, so there you guys go. And there's the little subtle hint for the recruitment. Like, what is this? Oh, there's a Carrack. It's the Carrack Expedition Edition because, as you can see, there's this really beautiful... I don't know what it is about the struts on this thing, but that looks cool as fuck. Those things, those are really cool. I like that. That's a pretty cool thing. But yes, so without further ado, let's have a crack at... The fuck? Hang on. What is... Oh my god! That's a fucking Polaris. Woo! That's a Polaris! Oh my god! That's the Polaris. God! I don't think that actually... Oh, I'm not gonna lie, I'm fucking... The music! I mean, it's fucking fitting at this point, I'll be honest with you. Jesus Christ, that's the Polaris. Oh. That is beautiful. That is actually beautiful. So yes, today we start off with RSI's Polaris. Jesus Christ on a bike. I didn't think they'd show it to us on the... I thought you could only see... When I heard that there was a tour of the... Like the... when I heard that it was only going to be a flyby, I believed that the Polaris was going to only be in space, and that would be the only way we could see it. Didn't realize they'd bring the fucker into the bloody expo center. Jesus Christ. It's beautiful. I'm not gonna lie, it is actually quite beautiful. So this is, of course, the Polaris. In fact, you know what? Let's do this properly. Let us fucking do this properly. Without further ado, let us begin with Invictus Launch Week, Day 1, RSI Day, and Argo Astronautics, Consolidated Outland, and Origin Jump Points. So, here we are in the main expo hall in the RSI segment. And as you can see, we have some absolutely beautiful vessels, but also what I kind of love about this is we're showing where RSI began versus where it is now. This thing is absolutely incredible, and I love it. I freaking love it, and I'm extremely ecstatic to see this thing. So, what exactly is this ship? What's the big hype about this ship? Why is this ship right now the biggest since the... God, I want to say Carrack. I feel like the Carrack, and like there was a big hype about the Carrack. Then there was probably the Corsair. Then... Oh, no, MSR. Yeah, no, fair. MSR. So, you know, what exactly is the big thing about this ship? Well, the thing is, this is the first capital class ship that will be given to the players. Well, that is a player capital class ship that will be flyable in the verse. This is the ship fated to be, when it is released, the first to be utilized by players in that role. The classification is that this ship is a corvette, if you look at the brochure. So this fucking ginormous bastard of a thing is only considered to be a corvette. Bearing in mind the dimensions of this ship is 166 meters in length, 82 meters wide, and 35 meters high, which is not as big as the 890 jump. Sadly, we will have to wait for another ship to break that bloody record. I despise the fact that the largest flyable ship in this game is fucking me up, but when you look at the scale of this thing, and oh my god, it's pretty. Oh, it's pretty. I love the engines. I love the thing in the back. It looks incredible. But this ship is... Well, the potential for this ship is astronomical, because what this vessel can do is, well, it's a multi-role self-sustaining vessel. What do I mean by this? Well, in terms of features, which I'll list up the features of the list, features listed in the wiki, Star Citizen Tools, it has a medical bay, a hangar, and has the self-sustaining combat platform. Quoting, designed to be a self-sustaining combat platform, the Polaris is capable of extended deployment without resupply, while still providing crew members with a higher quality of life standards than most currently available fleet options, allowing for enhanced morale, combat effectiveness while on assignment. The Polaris is truly a first-class vessel that will add much to the needed dimension to the UEE's fleet. Now, the other thing about in terms of lore, the UEE's, this particular vessel was originally... Yeah, it was a fast-track vessel following the Vandal attack on the Vega system in 2945. So this is the latest thing in the UEE's arsenal against shit like the Vandal. In addition, this particular vessel, these types of vessels with the new militia program being implemented as well, is going to give the members of every system the ability to defend themselves accordingly with a host of weapons and arsenal. And this thing is given some pretty fucking good weapons. So, what kind of weapons does this thing have? Well, it's got a number of... It's got a few... Yes, one size 5 turret, probably towards the front. That's probably that one up there. But 4 size 4 man turrets, an additional size 4 man turret. Bearing in mind, a lot of the stuff here is still... The ship is still a work in progress, so there may be some tweaks and systems in term... I mean, it's a Corvette. It's not a battleship. Oh no, there's the size 5s. Maybe, I don't know. Actually, no, I don't think those are the size 5s. But what is its main armament? The 4 size 10 torpedo racks, which you can see the launchers from this frontal area. Each containing 7 size 10 torpedoes. 28 size 10 torpedoes. We've never seen size 10 torpedoes before. We've only had size 9. Oh, and the 2 anti-fighter missile racks, which have 16 size 3 missiles. Because why the fuck not? This thing is mental. But as said, this thing has it's beautiful. I love it. I don't think I'll ever own one, but having seen this vessel in the the holodeck so many years, now we finally get to see what this thing looks like IRL. And I can say for certain this thing is going to be terrifying when we finally get this into action. It's going to be brilliant, and I'm ecstatic to see it. No joke, I am ecstatic to see it. Speaking of things I'm ecstatic to see, we have the Constellation series. We've seen the new with the Polaris. Now we look at the old, but not in a disparaging way. This is, of course, the Constellation series, previously starting at 3 vessels with the Constellation Andromeda, the Phoenix, and the Aquila, which is all the way over there. You can tell the Aquila because of the rounded cockpit with the struts not being so problematic. Kind of wish that was a feature you could adjust. Like, I know they're talking about modularity and everything, but I would actually kind of think, if ever a CIG developer watches this, do you think it's possible for, like, to change for some ships, to change the windows on it? Because I love this thing. I love the Constellation series, and that's me saying that. But I really don't like the struts on this thing. It's a bit of a pain in the ass, I'll be honest with you. The pike nose and the 2 struts at the front do make it a bit awkward to fly. But if you get us the rounded nose, oh, I love you. I'll love you forever. But no, this is the Constellation series of ships. One of the better ones out there in terms of multi-crew. But also, it was the great initial display of multi-crew ships. Because one of the things that makes this thing cool, well, one of the things they were showing off, I remember seeing all the way back in 2012, a video by The Mighty Jingles. And what he did was something pretty cool. He showcased this ship with all of the features, and it does look absolutely beautiful. We've got us... The thing is, the Constellation series isn't like... It's an older style ship, which means there's obviously certain things like the floor textures, the interiors do look a bit more utilitarian, but it's not quite Drake Interplanetary in the sense that you assume it's going to be needing duct tape and prayers. You also have the unique turret nature as well, where you've got 2 turrets with your Constellation Andromeda series. And to be fair, I think all of the other series of ships have them as well. But still, the Constellation Andromeda series is the OG. Like, this was the guy who actually did the full-on starter. And let's just hop in the seat just to prove this case. Be advised, when going into a ship in the Invictus launch week or the Interplanetary Expo, it's a ship that's designed for the showroom floor. The game is going to be a bit weird with it, so not everything will work as fully intended. But as you can see, the ship flying around and whatnot is actually... there we go. So you can see the displays here also have these things, but obviously it's quite a bit of interference. But for this particular ship, it has its fairly up-to-date interactable display here. You've got the power knock-off, you've got the other sort of systems here, we've got buttons, VTOL and everything else. There's the ESP. Thank fuck, it's not the REP. Wait, no, what am I thinking about? I think it is, in fact, the words I was thinking. Dear God. Anyway, the thing is, this vessel does have a very nice cockpit with a very good view, and since changing to the FOV of 116, it actually passes the MFD test, which is truly wonderful, which is a nice little thing. So in terms of armaments and equipment, because of course that's the most important thing for those who are curious about this vessel, he says as he struggles to go through it. So the thing with the Connie series is each particular version of the ship has its own unique trait. This being the Constellation Andromeda is more of an exploration slash combat capable vessel. So this ship has a fuck ton, and I mean a fuck ton of missiles. 24 size 2 and 28 size 1 missiles to be exact. Now sure, size 1 and size 2 missiles, not exactly impressive, you know, it's not as big as size 3 or 4, true, but these things murder if you get enough of them outside. And trust me, if you're a small fighter craft who's trying to pick a fight with a Constellation series, you're gonna die if you get smacked by 50 fucking missiles. It's a bit difficult to avoid that in terms of damage. It's got a pretty reasonable carrying capacity of about, say, just currently using the Star Citizen tools for the information regarding this vessel. It's 96 SCUs worth of cargo, which, if this is your first ever large multi-crew vessel, is not bad. You have the ability to hop in a vehicle. The Ursa Rover was the OG vehicle for doing this, but there are now a couple of other vehicles, the Type Thunderbolt Cyclone, a few other stuff, or if you're just wanting to use this in terms of cargo hauling, I've used this, and I've been around with friends who've used it. It does the job, and it does it very well. You've got some docking ports to the side as well, which allow you to navigate through and get in and out of the vessels. With a new EVA system in 323, it's now far fucking easier to get into this thing than it was before. The other unique thing about this vessel, apart from the really cool airlocks, is the ability for you to get into a snub fighter, and there's blood on this already. It looks like someone was a little bit too enthusiastic about the snub fighter. So this is the P-52 Merlin snub fighter made by Kruger Industries. This vessel comes attached with the ships such as the Constellation Andromeda, the Constellation Phoenix, and well, the P-72 Archimedes variant comes with the Phoenix, but both for the Aquila and for the Andromeda, it comes with that. And it's a pretty damn good snub fighter. It really does give you a sense of that this vessel is not just a larger ship, but it's in fact a multi-crew ship. One of the things I would say that is not in an advantage when it comes to the Constellation series is regretfully one of its bigger weak points, which is of course the engines, as it has a bit of a tendency to look a bit vulnerable in that regard. And that was one of the things I used to mention and moan and groan about when flying around or when talking about the ship. But I won't lie, it is a glaring weakness and is something that you'll need to be sort of looking into when it comes to flying. And apparently there is going to be a bit of a rework for these vessels in the near future, so maybe in the future we'll see some much better protection. Who knows? It might get to the point where this that weakness will no longer be a weakness. But there's one little thing I wanted to mention, just because it's something that I think personally is pretty freaking awesome. And that's the story of the Constellation Taurus, the most recent of versions to come out in Star Citizen. And I'm going to throw a potentially controversial statement out here. I think this is the best version of the Constellation series. The missile spam is a bit redundant in terms of doing stuff, because I feel like, well, yes, it's nice having lots of missiles, you have to lock on and hit the target with them. And obviously if people have missiles coming at them, they do like to use chaff and flare. But this particular version of the ship, which I personally find to be really awesome, is the cargo-based variant of the ship. And it has a pretty sexy amount of cargo space inside, housing a grand total of 174. Now, this is not by no means a huge blah sort of thing to it, but in comparison to other ships of this particular size, I think this is a pretty, and also given the price tag as well of this thing, this particular vessel is a great entry into those who are starting out in the cargo hauling industry, because it's easy to put the shit on. You can drive vehicles into the vehicles in and out without any real difficulty, and it's big, long, and straight. Just waiting for the immature people to stop giggling. But it's basically a very versatile and effective cargo hauler, which allows you to do quite a lot, and also has the firepower to defend itself, because the armaments don't change. It's still got fucking size 5 rhinos on its weapon mounts, and has the capacity to do so much more. Now also, with the fact that all weapons are gimbaled, it now means that players can enjoy a lot more capabilities of firing, and if I'm not mistaken, it still has a fucking turret on it. It doesn't have 2 turrets like the Andromeda, which is a problem, but it does have a tractor beam mount, which means if you're the kind of person who sees an opportunity and takes advantage of it, you can do quite a lot for it. Though I feel also this particular ship is pretty good for running solo. Yes, you're probably going to be vulnerable if you're being mobbed by loads of people, but if you're running a solo venture and you're not doing anything too risky, this vessel is for you. And I personally feel it's the greatest version of the Connie series. And I find also the other thing which I find a bit, at first I thought it was a bit of a sad case, was that this version of the vessel took forever to come out. It was only released about a couple years ago. And at first I thought the ship was going to be kind of the forgotten girl. Like, I've even mentioned in previous IAEs and Invictus launch weeks, it's like, oh, look, the new ship, which is just a cargo version of the Constellation series. It's never going to manage. But then when I started flying the damn thing, I was like, oh shit. This thing has good quality. And yeah, I've kind of fallen in love with this particular ship. I don't know why. It's just a nice ship, and I like it. It's a really good ship. I like this. Hello, you little cheating bastard. But we'll get to you in a minute. On your day. On your day, sir. Just gonna speak through gritted teeth for a few seconds whilst my frames catch up. There we go. But yes, so the Constellation series of vessels, they represent the heritage of where Star Citizen has come from in terms of what designs we thought were going to be unique and cool looking, and the Polaris is the understanding, the lessons learned, and the community's love for the game exemplified in what looks to be one of the sexiest and incredibly versatile first flyable capital ships that we will see in Star Citizen. So I am extremely excited to see what the future holds for Star Citizen once this thing gets flown and we are flying around in the Pyro system. Oh god, man with beard. As we enter into the first room on the left, still continuing with the RSI unit, you can see a whole bunch of different elements of the UEE Navy. We have the dedicated heavy combat troops, we have the bog standard Marines in the side, we have the flight staff on the carriers, we have the explorator pilots who are surprisingly tall, but okay, maybe even Tavaran, who knows. And of course we have the commanding officers as well, because why wouldn't we? And we enter into the room to be presented with a few new things, as well as an old gem, a controversial title, and of course the X-Wing. We'll get into the X-Wing in a second. First of all, let us look at a ship that actually has a little bit of a special space in my heart, Not this particular variant, but the vessel itself. This is, of course, the Aurora. Now, the Aurora is the bare basic starter ship in Star Citizen. And for anyone who wants to get into Star Citizen but doesn't have a huge budget, they can get this ship and it will work for them in a really useful way. What do I mean by this? Well, this is the combat variant. Hello. This is the combat variant of the ship, known as the Aurora LN, or the Legionnaire. This particular vessel has a number of weapons, mostly size 1s, but it does have the ability to, with the particular vessel of the Aurora, this ship does have, or this class of ship, does have the ability to upgrade to size 2 weapons, though I think this is more of an Aurora LN kind of thing than specifically the Aurora class in general. I mean, the Aurora class of ships is, well, based off a original design made way back when RSI was learning and adapting and beginning its time learning how to use the quantum drive. In fact, this was the ship in question that the guy who made up the quantum drive used to test if it worked or not. So this ship has, in terms of weapons, for those who are curious, 4 size 2 Dominator 2 missiles, which is what's on the top. It really does not have many weapons, does it? Well, it's got some... Okay, well, no, it's got size 2... It's got some size 1 guns on the top there. I'm going to go with the repeaters, and it's got weapon mounts for additional stuff. It's got a cargo grid/lock system, which allows you to grab some boxes of stuff. No, boxes to a degree. It's got 2 size 1 laser repeaters at the front. It's not really any kind of solidly massive combat capable kind of vessel. It is the Aurora. It is the basic bitch starter ship. But just because it's the basic bitch starter ship does not mean it lacks any capacity to do some good stuff. It, in comparison to the Mustang from Consolidated Outland, has a bed. And it also has a unique property in the sense that when you fly around in that ship, you actually... I didn't realize it clipped in, those guns clipped in, but it does. You actually have... We pop the engines on and get the lights on as well, if the lights would like to work. There we go. It also has the ability for you to look down and have a pretty decent view all the way around. And it also passes the MFD test, which is a pretty useful thing. Now, what do I mean by MFD test? Well, the MFD test is basically a test to see if you need to move your camera around to see all of the relevant MFDs when flying various vessels. Now, in previous years, I hadn't actually extended my FOV and to all the way up to 116. Now, I personally actually am finding myself quite happy to play like this. Downsides is it does mean you have to zoom in a bit to be able to see all of the details. But it does, however, give me the clarity to look all the way around, and a lot more ships can potentially pass the MFD test, which means I'm going to have to probably come up with another thing to see if the MFD test is not only can I see all of them, but I can actually read all of them, which is a good shout. But the Aurora LN, unlike its variants, many variants, the Aurora LN is a good sort of starting ground perspective for starting point for anyone wanting to do any more dedicated combat ships, but doesn't quite have the budget for those things. And look, if all you can afford is an Aurora, or already all you're willing to commit is for an Aurora. Christ, that word's going to be hard to say 5 times fast. That's completely fine. It is a good combat ship. It's not going to tank as much, and I'm not going to lie, it's going to struggle in some cases, but the size 2 missiles and the little cargo hatch on the underside gives you a good starting for one. And the bed means that you can log out anywhere in the verse, and so long as you've got the supplies inside your kit to survive, you can survive for a while, and I think that's completely fine and fair. And as mentioned, this was my first ever ship playing in Star Citizen. This was the thing that a friend of mine bought me, and I forever hate him since because he's ruined my life. Speaking of ruining lives, let's talk about the Mantis. This little fucking thing. So, what exactly is the Mantis? Well, the Mantis is a quantum interdiction craft. Now, how does this mean? So, what is, there's a lot of complicated words there, multiple syllables, people are terrified. So, what exactly does this thing do? Well, let me hop onto the ship to show you. So, what you do is you hop onto the very loud engine in the back. very loud. Probably going to have to edit this in. Or around. And... E. Oh, there we go. Yeah. There we go. So, you get into this fairly Spartan... Oh, fucking hell. You get into this fairly Spartan but very loud ship. I will add a note again. This is the showroom edition, so some versions of the vessels may be slightly buggy, may have some slight weirdness to them, but that's just literally because these things are just meant to allow you to see the ship, and then... There we go. This is basically... It's designed to let you see the... It's designed to let you see the ship and for you to sort of go rent, and then you go out into the verse to actually try it out for real. So, as mentioned, what exactly is so special about this ship? It looks kind of cool, it's got some limited weapon capacity, and it does in fact have some missiles. But what else does this thing do? Well, if I go over to one of these buttons, I should be able to flip it. Flip, flip. There we go. So... There we go. So, this vessel has what's described as a quantum enforcement device. And how it works is those rings begin to spin around, creating an energy, which then results in a massive pulse upon the completion of the charge up, and it basically results in a massive spherical pulse, which then hooks players traveling in quantum out of quantum, and basically brings them to a shuddering halt. So if you're inside the ship and you're minding your own business, quantuming from A to B, suddenly your ass is on the floor because someone just put the brakes on it in a very nasty way. Now, this particular ship does have some vulnerabilities involved when doing this. First of all, it's a major power consumption. So... Oh, hello. I think the game's crashed. No! But no, so this particular vessel has... Oh, there we go. So this particular vessel, upon the usage of this quantum enforcement device, will be very laggy and very slow upon its use, because obviously it's pretty powerful. You know, it's a large amount of energy that's just been used, which means this vessel needs to be escorted before it can do anything else for a while, at least. Once the power system comes back up, you do have your weapons on you, and it doesn't maneuver too bad. I will be honest with you, I haven't flown it in years, but when I did fly it, it was very, very bad. I did not have a good experience with this vessel, and as a result, definitely not on my list. But when this vessel first came out, there was a lot of fucking people getting pissy about it, because the potential for this ship to troll, to pirate, to reduce things, and it is being utilized by pirates nowadays. It's not something that was a concept that did work, that was threatened and then didn't work. There are pirates utilizing this nowadays. However, it's nowhere near as common as you may think. And when the ship initially came out, as mentioned, a lot of people were kicking off because they thought the trolls were going to be able to go mad, constantly getting people interdicted. But it turns out, not really. I mean, you still get interdicted, and it does happen. If you're a cargo hauler going out of various routes, and the pirate knows those routes, you do get people, you do get interdicted now. But it, again, doesn't happen to enough to the same degree that it's a widespread problem. But it's still has the potential to be quite a threat, especially considering the fact that more often than not, that ship tends to come with some friends rather than just doing it on its lonesome. So, in terms of viability, though, I personally think it's all right. I don't have any major qualms with it. I think it's cool that there is a device that players can utilize, because obviously, if you're a player who's been interdicted, the person who's interdicting you is going to have a major crime stat on their hands, and it ain't going to be pretty. Yeah, if you get them, oh boy, you doing that instantly gives you a major crime stat, and it will not go away for a while until the player either goes to prison or they get or they decide to, you know, try and risk career for the security points. But regardless, so now we go to the X-Wing. Now I realize this doesn't look like the T-65 or the T-70 variants of X-Wing, but they are the X-Wing. These, of course, their undercover names, however, is the Scorpius and the Scorpius Antares. So the Scorpius is a dedicated fighter platform from RSI utilizing some pretty awesome looking weapons. We've got 4 mounted on gimbals, if I'm not mistaken, because everything now is a gimbaled vessel. All the weapons are now gimbaled since going 323. I'm thinking these are fixed or potentially gimbaled. I don't know. I think they are, because that's a gimbal pod, isn't it? Yes. So these weapons, size 2s, nothing impressive to a degree, except on the back of the vessel, you have got... Let's have a look-see. Doesn't actually show the weapons now. Oh no, because probably it's the data mining stuff now. It's changed. But no, it's got a number. It's got 4 size 2 with 4 size 2 on a uniquely designed quad mount, which not only can shoot from the front, but also, if the game decides it wants to load. Come on, Star Citizen. I know it's Invictus launch week. I know it's a Saturday. I know you don't like it. But no, it also, the turret can actually go backwards as well. This particular thing here is a massive, like it's basically a running, chain running thing, which allows you, or tracks, that allows the turret to go backwards and target rear-mounted opponents. This particular vessel is a 2-seater and has the ability to do a fuck ton of damage in a fighter role. It's a very, very cool vessel. So what exactly makes this Antares version special? Well, the Antares version, slightly controversial, slightly, in the sense that the vessel doesn't that with the turret being removed, the Scorpius Antares has a quantum jammer and an EMP device, once again under the control of the opposing player. However, the opposing, this ship flies against the enemy and then gets EMP'd by the enemy. No, this vessel has the ability to trigger an EMP on its own vessel, as well as a quantum jammer, resulting in anyone trying to escape being denied. The thing is, though, the co-pilot is only responsible for these 2 things, not really able to do anything else at the moment. And when the ship was released, it was kind of controversial because it basically meant that the player couldn't really do... The co-pilot just had to sit there and do that, which, for those who don't play Rio in the game DCS World for the F-14, I can appreciate can seem extremely boring. So maybe in the future, when engineering becomes more of a thing, they might include some of that with the co-pilot for the Antares. But at the same time, it does kind of feel somewhat lackluster in comparison to the quad-mounted turret on the back of that thing. It's not even a question. But yeah, there we go. So there is our... Oh, I forgot to mention the middle. Fucking hell! Slap of the wrist, Jaeger. That was terrible. Almost forgot the pride of the pride of the entire thing for RSI. Almost having forgotten them. Very bad mistake, Mr. Jaeger. Naughty. This, of course, is the highlight of the ground vehicles. This is the new RSI Ursa variant. We had the Ursa Rover. We had the Ursa Transport. We had the Ursa Rover. Now we have the Ursa Medevac, is it? Yes, the Ursa Medevac. Oh, nice. You can actually get the new interactive as well. Yeah, so the Ursa, and then it's the... I'm going to say Ursa Rover, but I could be wrong. Lynx, not Rover. So yes, the Lynx is the vessel that I was talking about, not... Yeah, this special variant. So what exactly is the Ursa? Well, we'll go for this one to beginning. The Ursa is one of the earliest known, in my experience at least, it's one of the earliest ground transport vehicles in the game. As you can see, you can transport up to 6 members of crew to officially. That's what the seats are for, but we've normally got more. So the Ursa Rover has 2 seats at the front, 4 at the rear, and if you're lucky, maybe 2 people going prone without moving around too much. And this particular vessel, this particular Vic is designed to try and get small teams to rush into a combat zone, as well as provide limited fire support in the form of these 2 size 1 mounted weapons that either the driver or the co-driver can use. Either way, really good vehicle. don't really have anything negative to say about it. It's a good, reliable, tiny transport that does the job, and I don't think you need anything extra fancy. But if you are the kind of person who's fancy, you then have the Ursa Lynx, which is, once again, size 1 guns, this time being the M series of cannons, but now we've got some fancy pants stuff. So now, instead of a cargo transport room with a bunch of people inside, you've got an RSI bucket with ice water inside. Look at the textures of those ice cubes. Yeah, it's causing my game to lag out. If it crashes, I blame you. But this is, of course, the luxury variant of the RSI grouping, which, to be fair, it's not a bad call. It's probably more of just a glamorization thing. Oh, you can close this? Oh, nice. You can actually close that down as well. That's pretty cool. So you can actually close down the TVs, or you could have them open. If you're having like a meeting between yourself and a friend, or if you're just trying to go through, that chair does look really comfy, though. It reminds me of my chair, which is really comfy. I like my desk chair. It's been a really good desk chair. Immediately breaks after I say that. But once again, nothing too fancy. You open these little things up. You've got a weapons rack on the top. You've got this little doohad here, which shows all the little components, which is important. And it also has a pilot and a co-pilot seat, but again, meant to be for the luxurious people in mind rather than anything else. But still, pretty cool nonetheless. It's even got a license plate as well. I assume it's a license plate. It's got a winch as well. And then, of course, we've now got the latest variant with a very good test dummy inside. Hello, sir. Thank you very much for demonstrating. This is the Ursa Medevac. This vessel, or this vehicle, is a dedicated medical platform that allows players to not only provide healing to Tier 3 wounds, but also allows players to revive as a new system is being implemented. I'll just move out the vehicle so that the gentleman can get out. Thank you very much, sir. Very much appreciate it. So the Ursa Medevac is designed with a new feature in mind with Star Citizen, where you can actually now revive players within close proximity. We don't know the exact measurements yet, but the new ambulance vessels, which allow players to go into combat zones, and instead of dying, if they die outright, like if they instead of getting incapacitated, they die outright, that's it, you're fucked. Instead of reviving all the way back at their chosen medical location, which if they, and let's face it, we've all made that mistake, where you don't set your medical reservation to the nearest R&R station, you may find yourself sitting back on your home planet in the medical infirmary. This thing is now capable of going into a combat zone and providing you that emergency medevac attention, which actually, upon thinking about it, finally does something which I have yet to... I'm actually now saying we've got ground vehicles that have a major playable focus, like a mainstay focus for anyone playing Star Citizen. This thing is now essential for fucking FPS gameplay. Now, that's fucking awesome! I just realized that. That's so cool. Anyway, it's not just this vessel, though, that has this capability. We've now got, which we'll be seeing in later editions, in Drake Defense Con near the end of the event, as well as in an Anvil Day, we'll be seeing the C8 Medical Pisces and the Cutlass Red having this capacity as well. Now, of course, the disadvantage with the Pisces and with the Cutlass Red is that both vessels are very vulnerable. This is also vulnerable, but it's a lot smaller, which means and a lot easier to tuck away into the system. So yeah, this is one of the latest vessels in terms of medical gameplay, and I fucking love it. Now, does that mean I also want to see the medevac from the Apollo medevac, which is another vessel being created by RSI, which is a dedicated medical ship platform. But I'm not going to lie, at first I didn't think about this vessel being all that useful, but then when they mentioned about the fact that this thing has the ability for you to be medevaced out of a combat zone and revived in a combat zone, this thing shot up the list in terms of my, oh fuck, okay, this actually is serious. We've even got a tap and everything, which is really fucking cool. Oh, nice! It actually shows you the temperatures as well. That's pretty cool. But yeah, this is a very useful vehicle. In fact, I'm probably going to buy a ground vehicle. I don't know how much this is going to cost me, but I'm going to get a vehicle from this because this is very, very, very important. But yes, there it is. The Ursa Medevac, one of the latest vehicles, ground vehicles to come out of RSI. and probably one of the more important ones yet seen in the verse. I reckon that thing is going to become quite the common mainstay. Because there was a time, by the way, that when you were playing Star Citizen, the Cutlass Red, when it initially came out, was the first vessel that allowed you to respawn outside of your local respawn areas. This was admittedly before the hospitals came in, but basically you could, in fact, respawn on the Cutlass Red, and it was really good for like Org v Org events because players would be able to like revive and then come back into the fray and doing all the other jazz. So this is a really, really good event, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the future may hold as a result of that. But yeah, holy shit, that is fucking cool. As we continue to the last room in the expo halls, we are presented with the site that is a bit of a mixed bag. On the one hand, ugly, not very effective, and symbolizes the other choice when you're starting Star Citizen. On the far side of the room, we have an old, terrible design that, in my opinion, always wants to play catch-up, followed closely by its new, improved, and refined variants of design, followed by, of course, the best site in the room, which is, of course, the lifeblood of the UEE. But let's first of all get started on the shit side, the Consolidated Outlands Mustang Delta. So the Mustang series of ships is, again, the alternative choice for a new Star Citizen player, as they get access to the Mustang Alpha, if I'm not mistaken. It's the shittest version, unless... No, it is the Alpha. Yes, so they get access to the Mustang Alpha, but this, of course, being the military show, we're going to get the military variant, which basically has a few bits of additional... It does have a few additional weapons. It's got a number of Jericho op weapons and also a decoy launch. It's just a military variant of the ship. So you have a few more weapon mounts on this particular vessel. 2 size 2s on the top and what look to be size 2s on the wings. But I also, it's about size 2s on the front and size 2s on the wings. So nothing too impressive, though. To be fair, looking at those things, they almost look like size 1s. I've never been able to easily tell the difference between the size 1 and size 2. I don't know why. My brain looks at it and it goes, that's a size 2. And then my brain goes, wait, no, that's a size 1. It just makes an absolute pain in the arse. But I believe these are size 2s. They have to be size 2s. Regardless, the only thing that makes this particular ship unique is the fact that at the moment, it is the only ship I know of that has rocket pods. Now, in my opinion, I think rocket pods and dumbfire weapons should be kind of featured into the game more. I would personally love it if we could see a bit more dumbfire weapons such as rocket pods, dumbfire bombs, things that we can attach to the missile racks to exchange the missiles for rocket pods. I think that would make things very interesting, especially now since 323 has come with its Master Mode combat system, meaning that anyone who wants to do heavy combat is now going to be dealing with a new set of combat parameters that could make things very interesting if, for example, I was engaging someone with rocket pods in addition to my blasters. Or just all rocket pods, if we can make it to that. Weapon mounts are just weapon mounts. You know, like that weapon mount with the size 2 repeater should have the ability to mount missiles, should have the ability to mount rocket pods, dumb bombs, anything. Give us the choice, CIG. So what exactly is the issue with this ship? Why do I not like it? Well, there are 2 factors about this thing. The first is that the Mustang is a dedicated combat ship, which means if you are the kind of player who wants to learn how to play the game, doesn't really know what they're doing, and unfortunately as a result of the new systems will inevitably crash and burn, the fact that your vessel is only capable of doing one particular thing puts you in a very, very awkward position. Now, as much as the Aurora MR doesn't really have the capacity to do shooty shoot, it does give you the ability to at least put a box inside of it, so that way if you're not wanting to constantly go around killing shit, you will instead have the ability to at least explore the verse, understand how the systems work, and also be able to make a little bit of money on the side. Whereas this ship is all about, I have to kill something or I'm going broke, which is not always the good idea. Now, to speak in positivity, this thing does have a completely uninterrupted view of space and the area around you, which is a very good thing. And as mentioned, it's got rocket pods. These are pretty effective. They're not like amazing, but they do a fair amount of damage, and there's like 36 in each of those ones, which is pretty fucking cool. So they do serve a very effective purpose, but unfortunately, because they are only limited to this vessel, it's very difficult to see their full effectiveness because, again, we don't have them on other ships. It also passes the MFD test, which is pretty nice as well, considering the fact that I've got the new view and all of that jazz. And it was size 2, so I was right about that. But of course, as mentioned, the issue with this vessel, if we're starting to talk about the negative traits, which I do like about this which I do like to talk about with this ship, it doesn't have a bed, it doesn't have a cargo bay, it does have a cargo pod thing at the back now, which is finally functional, though I don't know if it's if it works on this ship or if it works on only on other ships. But it does have a little pod thing at the back that you can use to open up a cargo bay / pod thing, but again, it doesn't really serve that much of a practical purpose because you have to fanny ass putting the box inside of it, then putting it back up and doing whatever, whereas if you wanted to use a box, you can just attach it to the cargo grid of the Aurora, Bob's your uncle. Finally, in a personal note, I really don't like the look of the vehicle. It looks ugly. I don't like the chin turret, it looks dumb, and I think you should replace the chin turret, get rid of it completely, put more weapon mounts on the side or even an internal one on the actual body itself, and just leave this alone to make it look a little bit better. The only version of the ship that I would say that looks relatively decent is the racing variant, and that's just because it looks like a racer. It's not a combat ship. But the thing is, this particular ship is of an old design, and Consolidated Outlands have in fact done relatively well in more recent years, considering the fact that they've released the Nomad, more thanks to the fact of their deal with the Xi'an, I imagine, but still, and they are also in the process of making a very, very lovely ship in the form of the Pioneer. But we're not going to talk about that anymore because it's unfortunately A, not here, and B, it's more of an Invictus, an intergalactic aerospace expo than an Invictus launch week, at least not yet. Speaking on old designs, let us talk a bit about the Origin 325A. The Origin JumpWorks 300 series of ships with a more military focus. Now, in my eye, this ship has always been an attempt to compete with the Avenger Titan, which is of course the best starter ship in the game, which we'll be explaining to further down on Aegis Day. But this particular ship, in my opinion, is one of the reasons why I despised Origin JumpWorks for so long. While its armaments and systems now, especially since the new gimbal system going into 323, has meant that it now has more or less the same armament. In fact, it does have the same armament as the Avenger Titan. It still lacks in a number of areas that make this inferior to the Avenger Titan, in my opinion. One of these particular factors is, and the most glaring of which, is the cargo bay. Apart from the fact that you have to spend your time trying to find it, it has a very shit cargo bay, only carrying about 4 SCUs worth of cargo. And the downside gets even worse when you realize that it's not even a cargo bay you can walk into. It's one that you have to put boxes into and hope they're not too tall, because it's either going to bump into the top area there, which just doesn't work, in my opinion. I don't think that's a good cargo bay design. In fact, it's a shit cargo bay design. But hey ho, there you go. But going further afield, let's have a little bit of a quick look inside the ship to see what other benefits this particular ship has, and try and look at it from an objective perspective to try and sort of see if there's a way we can bridge where, in my opinion, it goes wrong, and what I leave up to you guys as well. So, in terms of ship design, the Origin JumpWorks 325 follows on from its counterparts, with the exception of the racing variant, by giving you a very luxurious internal compartments. It's got a tap, it's got some sort of food preparation areas, it's even got a fridge that opens and closes. It's very important that it does both of those things. It also has a weapons rack and the ability for you to get your suit and tie and a couple of glasses with a TV and a bed and everything else. The one thing this thing has over the fucking Avenger Titan is that it in fact has a toilet. That is literally it. It has a toilet, but no showers, no capabilities to do anything, no real storage capacity, and once again, it doesn't have a cargo bay. The other thing this ship has, which I don't think is as much of an important thing after a while, is that while it does have a very nice internal view that allows you to look up into the stars or the planet side that you're on. Oh, okay, it has a fire extinguisher. That the other ship doesn't have. Okay, there's a point to this thing. It actually has safety in mind. But the issue is, once again, you've got a lot of empty dead space that doesn't really do anything. You can't put any, with the exception of the weapons rack, there is nothing you can do here. There's the dead space here, which doesn't do anything. And when you finally get to the cockpit, it's this really nasty holographic-y one, which not the hugest of fans, to be brutal. It does, with the new view that I've got past the MFD test, ish. But at the same time, it's still... and it does have a pretty decent view, if the game would decide to load. Of course, it would do that. Come on. Come on. Come on, Star Citizen. You know it. There we go. We're doing that a lot in this particular recording session. I do apologize in advance. So it does have a pretty decent view from the front, with an unobstructed view, with the exception of the exact right and left being, or 90 degrees to your left and right being obstructed by struts, but there's not a lot you can really do or compare to say against that. The radar in the center as well looks kind of okay, and as mentioned, there's a few things that probably a few extra modernizations can do. This ship has also got the only capacity at the moment, I think this is one of the only few ships, though feel free to correct me if I am wrong on that, where you can actually customize other elements of the ship to even make this thing look like an Origin 315i. But still, in my opinion, I do not like this ship. It just feels too opulent, it feels too extravagant, and it just doesn't seem like a practical ship. It just seems like a typical Origin Jump Works palaver that doesn't really benefit anyone except itself, which is... yeah, it's typical of the Origin Jump Works, and it was the reason why I didn't like them until I got to the 100 series of ships. This is the 125. This is the ship that I personally believe started my change of my mind change when it came towards understanding and liking the Origin Jump Works ships. Now, that does not mean I think all of the Jump Works ships look nice now, but I can see that lessons were being learnt about Origin Jump Works, and that some ships don't do well because they look opulent, because they look stupid, because they do not serve any real purpose except to be a toy for the rich. This ship, however, is different. It actually says, look, I am a beginner ship. I don't have the biggest guns. I don't have the biggest toys. But what I do have is a decent set of weapons, a decent practical interior, and the ability for someone who's new to the game to enjoy a little bit more of a luxurious start, but still a very practical one. You can see here we have an internal cargo bay with a practical use of... I like practical, it's a good word. But it has a small, easy-to-access hatch, which you can put a couple of boxes inside. It has a bed, and while it doesn't have any abilities for you to live inside of it, it is one of the cheaper styles of ships to go around, and with the size 2 repeaters and size 2... and 6 size 2 missiles, which is kind of impressive to say the least, this dedicated combat vessel has the means and the capacity to do a hell of a lot of fucking damage with what limited arsenal it has. It also has pretty unobstructed views. A minor strut on the front, which is not optimal, but it does what it needs to do, and it doesn't infest or spend too much time piss-arsing around. It just does the job. In terms of MFDs, it doesn't pass the MFD test because there's a communications hub here, as well as another power situation here, which, again, it could be done better, but again, this is a small vessel. It's not designed for very complicated things. But at the same time, it does the job that it needs to do, which is what I personally respect a hell of a lot more than what the Origin Jump Works 325A does. Because, yeah, it's Yeah, no, it just symbolizes what I don't like about Origin Jump Works, and the 125 symbolizes the improvement of Origin Jump Works, whereupon the antithesis to this would be the 400i, which I have fallen completely in love with. Speaking of falling in love with, it is time we finally talked about my favorite ship manufacturer in Star Citizen, Argo. The sexiest bunch of bastards this side of Terra. So, my boys, Argo Astronautics. Fucking love these guys. So the Argo Astronautics is the lifeblood of the UEE. You may have seen a lot of these vessels in and around the Star Citizen, or inside Star Citizen, around Star Citizen, and of course in trailers for other vessels, such as a good example being the Hull C. When the Hull C had its trailer, you had these things, which look amazing, giving out all the different cargo. Now, this thing is basically the Argo MPUV. Now, the MPUV has many different variants, which, to be fair, I'm kind of wondering why they have different variants when really all the MPUV is just this ship with the ability to latch something onto it. Because you can see there's a locking feature here. So theoretically speaking, this thing is literally doing the same as this thing. But maybe when the modularity thing becomes more of a factor, who knows. But the point is, the MPUV is a dedicated cargo transit. That is very interesting in terms of fashion, my friend. I kind of respect that. He actually looks kind of cool, but in a very, I don't give a flying fuck what I look like. Anyway, so the Argo Astronautics MPUV is a dedicated transport vehicle that allows players to... That doesn't have a quantum drive, but it does allow players to haul a whole variety of different objects, from the cargo pod, which allows you to transport limited cargo and a singular passenger, to a budget bus transport, which allows you to transport up to 8 people inside, with not bad views, but I'll be honest with you, I would not feel comfortable flying in this thing, considering the fact that all it would take is the pilot having a very bad day to send me flying to the ground faster than oh shit. Like, you could create the mother of all bombs out of this thing if you're wanting to. Instead of it being a bomb, it would just be the mother of all the babies and children inside this pod. And then, of course... But the important thing is that recently we've finally been given the latest variant, which is this thing, which is... I'm going to have to quickly go look over to here. So what is this thing? What is it called? The MPUV Tractor. Now, this particular variant is the one that allows you to act as a tugboat, because we've now got tractor beams. Mountable tractor beams on the vessel, and also the ability for you to mount shit onto it, which again makes me wonder if this is just going to be the future of the MPUV. Rather than just being the tractor variant, it's just the MPUV, and it has all of the abilities of the above, to be able to house those things, and to be able to house those things. Which, you know, as said, I do like this thing. It's a pretty cool thing. I don't have one, but I look forward to the day where I need to get one in order to earn a living. It's got a nice little tiny one at the back as well, which is kind of adorable. But anyway, then of course, speaking on tractor beams, then of course we have a look at this ship, the Argo SRV. Now this is the latest, largest version of the large ship of Argo Astronautics. As you can see, it looks fucking sexy. We'll pop that down into there. So what exactly does this ship do, and what exactly makes this ship the unique thing that it is? Well, the Argo SRV is a sole pilot, or dual pilot, depending on... no, it's a sole pilot. It has living quarters, but it's a sole pilot ship. And basically what it does is it allows players to be a tugboat, which at the moment doesn't have much use because there's no real issue with players and pilots and big ships navigating in the sectors of the hangars or of the space stations, trying to get themselves out of the zone. But eventually what will happen is very big ships will need, like they do in real life, tugboats to be able to get them out of the harbors and send them on their way, hopefully to a safer pasture. But if the game decides it wants to load, come on, Come on. Son of a bitch. There we go. So, as you can see, this particular vessel has the very big tractor beam, which, if we look at the details on that, we have a... What is this thing? It's a decoy launch and nose launch. A safe tow size 3 tractor beam, which is remotely activated. This thing is bloody big, as you can see by that thing. And you can also see, as a quick demonstration, what the tractor beam currents look like. Ooh, help! My wallet! It's taking my wallet! Shit joke aside, this particular vessel... Wait, is it... Oh, for a second I thought it was floating. So... But yeah, no, the Argo Astronautics is the utility hub, the lifeblood of the UEE, and have done a lot to make the UEEs and anyone in terms of flying. They're the guys who you go to in order to pick things up, which is very important. So that is the reason why I really want one of these things. And in 323, this thing became available to purchase in-game, which is going to be an objective of mine. Very much so. Elevator, yes, please. Thank you very much. So we're just going to slowly go down. But no, the Argo SRV is one of the nicer vessels to have, because if, for example, you need to do anything in regards to salvage, which, yes, I know it's now 70% less valuable, it still can be something that if you spend enough time in, you could potentially make a serious profit. We've yet to fully test out any real profit-making elements towards it, but at the same time, I think this would be a really good opportunity if you had one of those things, because you could do like an extremely extreme bounty mission, and then basically go into heavy combat with, well, if you can get into combat, get the bounties and everything else, and then get that ship, then, yeah, oh boy, it's going to be extremely profitable, to say the least. But still, we have to see what it's like in combat and its practical situations first. So, sadly, we arrive at the end, or near the end of our destination. We are now down on the holodecks, and we showcase the latest stuff that is planned to come into Star Citizen, but has yet to arrive. But it's fine, because we've now finally taken one of the bloody things that was in the holodecks and plonked it in the bloody sector, in the expo hall itself. Which is an improvement, I would say. So, let's have a look at where we're going for the future. And I'm immediately disappointed. This is the G12. The military variant, which is the G12A. A dedicated combat vessel with missiles that, in my opinion, it is the ugliest ground vehicle in Star Citizen, period. It looks like a moon buggy that got sat on. And what I find hilarious is that the UEE is seriously considering this bloody vehicle for its combat fleets. I think there's a bit of a collusion going on in Origin Jump Works and the UEE Navy, because I honestly think this particular vessel will not survive combat very well. And I just think that there's something fishy going on at the moment, which is why I think this particular vessel will be nothing more than an embarrassment and an attempt at making a Lamborghini in the form of a moon buggy. Now, this isn't the only variant of the G12. There will be a racing variant and a dedicated transport variant, the bog standard edition. But again, this is Origin Jump Works here. This is a company that until recently, well, to be fair, their 400i has done well, but other variants of their ship fail in such a horrible fashion that the mind boggles when you think of just how bad some of their ship designs can be. So I am extremely concerned with the future of the UEE's ground fleets if this is going to be the thing that they use. But nothing much we can do except hold your breath and laugh out loud when everything goes to shit. But yeah, no, I'm not a fan of those things, even with whatever weapon systems they could add onto it, which it's just a missile launcher. And what, size 3s? I'm thinking size 3s. No, 8 size 2s. It has 8 size 2 missiles. That's it. whoop-de-fucking-do. Honestly. Ah! This thing. Yes. This, on the other hand, is very much going to be a very wonderful ship. I am, of course, talking about the Perseus, which, if the game would decide it would like to load, would be even better. I swear to God, this particular recording session has become an absolute pain because the game keeps doing that stupid lag-out session. But no, this is the Perseus, the baby-ish vessel. This is the dedicated... It was basically a gunboat. A very powerful gunboat, but a gunboat nonetheless. This thing is ridiculous. It's got 2 size 7 cannons mounted on. One on the top, one on the bottom. It looks incredible. I kind of want one. Kind of. But yeah, it's ridiculous. It also has a... It's not just, of course, the size 7 guns on the top that are lovely. It's also got 2 remote turrets of size 3 ballistic Gatling. Oh, and did I mention that it also has 20 size 5 torpedoes? I like this ship. This is the kind of ship I would like to say fuck you to anyone who decides to fuck with my ship. I like this ship. It's cool. It also has a very nice looking rear. I do like this ship. It looks really, really cool. And there's the turret. You can see the background. So no, this ship looks gorgeous and will serve to be an incredible escort vessel or gunboat or the antithesis to the Hammerhead. I would love to see the Hammerhead and this thing go out, duke it out. I would like to say that this thing would win, given the fact that it has 20 size 5 torpedoes and 2 size 7 cannon, but because of the sheer spam rate of the Hammerhead, I feel like this ship would explode before the Hammerhead would die. I feel like that is what would happen. I would love to be wrong. I want to be wrong, but I feel like the Hammerhead has the ability, with all of its guns pointed at this target, it would cause the ship to detonate before any substantial levels of damage would be inflicted. I mean, when the torpedoes would smack into the size... When the size 5 torpedoes would smack into the Hammerhead, then the Hammerhead would explode. But I feel like that would be after the Perseus has detonated. But that is something that I want to be wrong over, and I hope to be proven wrong over in the near future. But this thing looks incredible, and certainly does look like a Star Destroyer when you think of it in a particular way. The baby Star Destroyer, to be exact. But still, I like it. I like it a lot. And finally, we have a new ship in the holodecks. Or at least... Yeah, wait, this is an angled version as well. This is the Zeus Mark II MR. What exactly is the Zeus Mark II MR? It is the bounty hunting variant. And you can see it's early in its grey box design because you don't see much details with it. This is the bounty hunting variant of the Zeus ship, which is currently under active production. So the Zeus is a beautiful designed aircraft, all about the sleekness and the subtleness of everything. It's a pretty decent I say transport, but it's a dedicated ship with a pretty decent amount of weapons. It has an electromagnetic... Oh, nice. It's got a quantum dampening field and a EMP on it, which is pretty dope. In terms of weaponry, it does have a number of hard points available to the player, which I can see here. We've also got a couple of turrets on it as well, a couple of remote turrets. It's got 2 size 4 missile racks, unknown missile options capable of well. But it is a pretty decent looking ship, and I definitely want one. Though I think I probably would prefer the cargo hauling element. Though then again, considering the fact that I've got some good ships already for cargo hauling, I don't know if I'll be getting one of these things, at least not in the immediate future. But what I can say is that this ship looks beautiful, and I honestly hope we get to see more of its kind in the future, as well as more of likely in, the near future with some of the stuff that's coming out. Because it looks really, really good, and I very much look forward to seeing what the future holds. Oh my god, I can see what the weapons are. Holy shit, that looks cool. Yeah, no, that looks cool. That looks extremely, extremely cool. So no, this thing does look the part, and I think it's going to be an absolute wonderful addition to the verse, as I think RSI have been somewhat lacking in their ship releases lately, and I think having that go into the fray would be incredible in conjunction with the Polaris and the Perseus. But sadly, there it is. The time has come. We must say goodbye for today. But don't you worry, because I'll be here doing every day in Invictus launch week, showcasing the best of the UEE and showcasing what we can do in Star Citizen and showcasing what everything is. I'm going to be here doing every day. I'm going to be showcasing all the awesome stuff and talking about it. And if you want to see more of this, don't hesitate. Click on the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'd love to see your comments as well. Do let me know what ship you're looking most forward to, because holy shit, for me it's the Polaris. Definitely the Polaris. There's no question. In my opinion, the Polaris is the big one, because it not only symbolizes a major step in the development of Star Citizen, but it also shows what the player base can. It'll give the player base a real, tangible objective to work towards when it comes to clan organization and speed and whatnot. But from me, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to catch you in for tomorrow's episode, whereupon it will be all about the additional support vessels. I think it's going to be about Tumbril, we'll have Kruger, we'll have a few other guys available as well. Not a sole dedicated day, that's not till Aegis Day, but still, fantastic event nonetheless. Look forward to seeing you there. This is Mr. Jaeger, signing out.